There is
All right. What is going on, guys? So, what's going on, guys? We are coming at you from the gym today. Got caught up doing some filming and then ended up just doing the podcast from here instead of heading back home. So, today we are talking about dealing with setbacks, and we're going to get into it pretty quickly. So, I'm going to give it a minute to let some people tune in, see who all is going to join us. We're talking about dealing with setbacks, the way that a lot of athletes tend to deal with them versus what you should actually be doing if you want to move forward, if you want to grow, if you want to reach that true potential that you have as an athlete. I'm doing awesome. How are you doing? As you guys are tuning in, make sure to drop me a comment. Let me know what kind of topics you'd like to hear more about on the podcast. Let me know how your training is going, anything that you're struggling with, so that we can, again, continue to serve you, because that is the goal of these shows. The goal of this show is to help you. So let me know how you're doing. Let me know what you need help with, and we'll make sure to get those on the list for future podcast episodes. What's up? Appreciate all the insightful videos. Thank you, man. I appreciate that a lot. I hope you're having a phenomenal, what day of the week is it? Tuesday. All right, we're going to get into it. We're talking dealing with setbacks, and we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dussault, and today we're talking about dealing with setbacks. Now, why are we talking about this? Well, we're talking about this because, plain and simple, setbacks are something that every single athlete out there either is currently dealing with or will deal with at some point or has dealt with in the past to some degree or another, whatever they might be. Now, there are a lot of different types of setbacks as an athlete or even just as a human that you're going to face. And I want to talk about how to face them better and what you can do to better move through them instead of just bury them and pretend that they're not there. So the common ones that I see athletes face all the time are injury, loss, or then issues outside of the sport itself, dealing with like difficult things with family, with friends, whatever else it might be that throws off the focus on the career or the focus on the training. So how do we deal with these setbacks when they come up? What I see a lot of athletes doing, which is unfortunately not the optimal way to be dealing with these things when they come up, is avoidance. If you lose a fight, instead of really going back, figuring out what you did that caused you to lose the fight, you're basically just saying like, oh, no, it's all good. Like it's in the past, moving on to the next one. And yes, that's important to be able to move past it. You don't want to stay stuck in it, but you need to actually deal with it. And you need to actually like take the time to accept the fact that it happened and focus on what you can do to improve to get through it. Now, when it comes to that stuff, it's difficult. Why do people avoid their setbacks? Or what I see a lot of athletes do is like with something like an injury, they're like, they'll get hurt, which happens to us all. And instead of realizing, okay, I've got an injury, I've got to focus on actually, working through this injury, getting past it, moving on, they kind of just try to grind through it because they don't want to go through the setback of, rehab and actually fixing the problem. They want to just, keep going on to the next thing. And I understand it because rehab's not fun. I've been through it. I don't even know how many times with different injuries myself. And I've seen athletes go through it too. It sucks. But what you've got to understand is that if you put it off, if you don't do the things that you need to be doing, then you're just going to delay rehab. You're going to delay the problems that are going to come up anyways. And in turn, you're going to make it worse on yourself. Right. So instead of avoiding the problem and just trying to grind through it and pushing, take the time, face the problem, understand, hey, this shoulder's messed up. I got to do some work on it. And if I take the time to do the work on it, I'm going to be able to get back faster, and I'm going to be able to get back in a better position than when I left. Now, the reason that I feel a lot of athletes tend to avoid these issues when they come up or tend to try to just put them to the side is, like I said, they're not enjoyable to deal with. Nobody likes dealing with setbacks. Everybody likes things to just be, moving forward and going well and always kind of trying to push the negative stuff to the side. But the thing you've got to understand about how to actually face these issues when they come up is number one, you've got to understand what it takes to be great at something. Now, obviously, this story is going to be a little bit of a different angle on it because, I am coaching. I'm not competing at high levels like some of you guys are. But when it comes to even building this career as a coach, when I moved to Calgary in 2017, I moved into a job that had paid me literally nothing. And when I say that, I don't mean like it was a bad salary. Like I moved into a job where they were like, yeah, you want to make money, figure it out. And they had good education as far as the coaching itself, but I had no ability to actually find clients or anything like that. So I knew I wanted to stay at this job and I needed to spend as much time as I could figuring out how to, speak to people online, how to go find clients, how to have conversations, how to bring people in for sessions, how to promote myself, all these things that I'd never done before. And then after a couple of years at that job, when I went out and started my own business, I'm sitting here thinking, I've got it all figured out. I understand how to market. I understand how to promote myself. And then what does the world say? The world goes, hey, here's a global pandemic to shut the whole fucking world down. Now you're not allowed in a gym. And so again, you're faced with that decision. You're faced with that thing, that setback of, okay, do I do what a lot of other coaches at the time were doing and just sit around and bitch about the fact that, like the world shut down. It's not my fault. I can't do anything about it. Or do I figure out how to move online? So I started my podcast. I started online training. At the time, the systems were horrendous, but it was better than nothing. And then over time, I started working more on how to, speak on social media, how to improve my online presence, doing all of the things that had to be done with the situation that I was dealt. Because I knew that, like right from day one, that this is what I wanted to do. And not only was this what I wanted to do, this is what I want to do at a very high level for a very long time. This isn't a hobby for me. The same way that athletes focus on, building up to the highest level that they can in their sport, I'm doing that just in a different way. I'm doing that for coaching. I always tell my athletes is like, as you chase greatness in your careers, I'm doing the same right alongside you, because I'm a big believer in the fact that if I want to train high level professional athletes, then I need to be a high level professional coach, not just some random guy sitting in a gym hoping people are going to come and work with them. So with that being said, every time I was thrown a test of, what are you willing to work through? I didn't just sit around bitching about the fact that it wasn't my fault or it was, this problem or that problem. I got to fucking work. I figured out the problem and I continued to move through it. And this is what I see a lot of athletes not willing to do. When they deal with an injury or they deal with a loss, they want to just shove it aside and move past it and not really deal with, the emotion or the struggle or whatever else it is that they're facing. And they want to just continue doing what's comfortable. For the longest time, I never wanted to train people online because in my head, I was saying, I can't deliver the same type of service. It's not going to be as good as if they're in person. I don't want people to get the impression that I'm not as good of a coach because they're not getting as good a service because it's online. But then when the world said, hey, online training is literally the only thing you can do now, I was forced with a decision. Do I give up the job that I'd wanted for however many years? Or do I figure out how to make the best possible online coaching service for athletes? And that's exactly what I did. And I'm so confident in that service now because I knew, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I don't want it to be some half-ass, here's a PDF program and go fucking figure out your training on your own. I wanted to be able to deliver the same quality to someone online as if they were there with me in my gym. And that's exactly what we've done over the last few years as we've built that service out. And this is what you need to understand when it comes to your struggles as well. If you've lost a fight, if you've dealt with an injury, if you're dealing with any kind of struggle, these are the things that the universe is telling you. Hey, how badly do you want this career? How badly do you want to win? How badly do you want the goal that you've set out for yourself? And you have the decision to say, I don't want it that badly, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and hope for the best and then complain when it doesn't work out. Or I'm going to get uncomfortable. I'm going to dive deep into the struggle. I'm going to do what it actually takes to move through this and see the success that I'm looking for. So outside of understanding what it takes to actually be great at something, you've got to learn that being uncomfortable is going to be a massive part of this. When you're dealing with injury, the worst part of it is seeing other people go train, seeing other people, do the stuff that you're not able to do right now. but accepting the fact that doing your rehab work is going to be the best move to get you back to the sport. Doing the rehab work, taking the time, going through the process is going to be the best move to put the best version of you back into competition the fastest, which is ultimately what you're after. It's uncomfortable when I started, speaking on social media more and being more active there, seeing people that I used to work with behind the scenes fucking giggling to each other that I look stupid on camera or whatever other dumb shit they probably are still saying about me. But then over time, my business started to succeed while a lot of them stayed exactly where they were. And there's nothing wrong with staying exactly where you are if that's what you want. But I know that a lot of people listening to this podcast have big goals for their careers, as do I. So I knew that when it came to the goals that I had for my career, sitting around continuing to do the same shit and not growing, not getting uncomfortable, not putting myself out there, not learning the business side of coaching wasn't going to be enough. And then the other thing, guys, is getting the help that you need is the way that you're going to face these difficult things that you go through. Over the last few years, for myself, as an example, one of the biggest struggles that I've had has been mindset. And when I say that, I feel like I'm a very hardworking person. I feel like anybody who knows me would agree with that. But what I struggled with was when my social media started to grow, when I started seeing UFC fighters in my DMs, when I started seeing, follows from people that were super high level, when I started working with higher level athletes, when my business started growing, my income started increasing, all I could feel was guilt and anxiety. And the reason was because mentally, I didn't see myself as the guy deserving of that, even though if you look back at the last 10 to 12 years and everything that I've done in that time, I'm absolutely the guy deserving of that. And even as I say it here, it feels cocky to say that, even though that's confidence because I can back it up with the last 12 to 15 years of my life. Right. But because mentally I didn't see myself as the person deserving of the things that were starting to happen for me, I had a lot of trouble stepping into that and actually embracing, this is my life now. Like I get to make my living, make a good living, working with professional athletes, owning a gym, having a presence online that I'm literally get DMs from people around the world, which is insane to me. But this is my life now because I deserve it because I've put the work in over the last 12 to 15 years to get here. But over that time, like I said, mindset has been a huge issue, feeling that guilt and feeling that anxiety as those things started to happen. So instead of just sitting around and letting myself feel guilty and anxious for it, I started doing work on myself. I set up a morning routine where I spend 45 minutes every single morning working on my mindset, meditating, journaling, writing out a vision, reading a vision, all of these things to just help me continue to push myself forward. And then I started going to therapy. I started talking to someone about these struggles and these feelings that I was dealing with so that I could learn why I feel that, why I'm feeling these things, so that I could actually learn to embrace it and actually learn to step into who I am now. I started doing hypnosis, which was really cool, and like learning how to actually go back into my past and rewire old memories and experiences to, help me understand why I have some of the habits that I have, why I have some of the anxieties that I have, and be able to actually work through it. I started doing the work required to get to the point that I'm at and to embrace the point that I'm at and to even step further than the point that I'm at. And that goes for a lot of you guys too, whether it's mental, like mindset stuff, like I was just talking about, or whether it's physical. I heard a story the other day from a coach that I know, talking about how an athlete of his a couple years back injured himself doing a certain exercise in the gym and immediately said, I'm never doing that exercise again. But the problem with a mindset like that is that that exercise could be extremely helpful for you to grow as an athlete. But because you made a mistake doing it, instead of saying, hey, I made a mistake doing that, so I should probably learn how to do it better. So I should probably hire a coach to teach me these things so that I don't keep making that same mistake. His immediate reaction was, I hurt myself doing this. I'm never doing it again. Now think about if you brought that same mentality to fight training. Well, I tried this combination and I got punched in the face, so I'm never doing that combination again. you would never accomplish anything. But because you have the coaches in place to teach you what the mistakes you're making and help you work around them, you continue to try that combination. You continue to try that move. You continue to work on that drill until you get better. But for some reason, in the other areas of life, so many people are so quick to say, that didn't work, never doing it again. And it's just not the way that you're going to actually grow and develop into new levels, new versions of yourself, and in turn, the goals that you want. So, guys, to sum all of this up, when you are dealing with setbacks, when you're dealing with struggles, when you're dealing with things that, are uncomfortable, are difficult, are things that you don't want to be dealing with, you've got to learn to actually face it. You've got to understand what it takes to actually achieve great things in your career, which is going to be uncomfortable, which is going to be difficult. You've got to understand how to be uncomfortable and how to embrace that, how to understand that, when you're dealing with something that you're not comfortable with, you've got to learn to lean into that. You've got to learn to work harder at that instead of avoid it. Guys, a perfect example. I used to be terrified to talk on camera. I'm literally staring at 2 cameras right now having a conversation. And after doing this, I think I have 420 podcast episodes out at the time of this recording. After doing this 420 times, it's second nature. But over the last 4 years, I've done this well over 400 times, and it's become second nature. If I did my first podcast and then I said, that was hard, I didn't like it, I'm never doing it again, well, then most of you would have no idea who the hell I was. My business would be in an entirely different position, and I wouldn't be making the impact literally worldwide that I'm making today. And it's the same thing for you guys. You try and exercise, it doesn't work out. Guess what? You weren't good at throwing a jab the first time you tried throwing a jab either. When you were a little kid, you weren't good at walking the first time you tried. You probably fell on your face a bunch of times. You didn't give up on that. Why are you giving up on this? Right? So continue to embrace getting uncomfortable, and then finally get the help you need. If it's physical, if it's with your training, hire the right coaches to help you through those issues. If it's mental, if it's a mindset block, if it's something else, make sure that you are finding the right people to put on your team, to put in your corner to help you with those issues. And then finally, guys, that is going to be the steps that you need to take to start actually dealing with setbacks, start actually pushing through them, and start actually reaching the new levels that you want to reach. So I appreciate you all for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. And as always, I will catch you tomorrow on the next episode.